Dat was nou 'n great sessie.
Christian is terug. Ja, ek kan jou Woensdag maak. Is mos Woensdag, nee.
Ja,
Ek kan nie daai lees nie bybly nie. Vir my is dit net nog 'n dag, jy weet, so dis full of hy. Ek weet die gyms en die goeders is nou toe, maar dit voel vir my ek is op 'n treadmill en iemand anders druk die knoppies of net geen beheer het. Anyway, jy sê jou trekker het goed afgeloop maandag, Chris, ja?
uitstekend. Ja, die vrou is happy al, man. Ons is almal op pad terug. Hy's oor 2 weke. Hy is op quarantaine nou in Joburg, hy het Abu Dhabi uit en ja, dan is hy terug.
Yes, dit is vreemde
tye. Ons sy baba verder.
Ja, jy sê dit is wel 'n tye wat ons in leef hoor. Maar nou ja, ons gaan dit ook oorleef.
Ja,
die wêreld het gestop in 1820 met die groot virus nie en toe in 1920 met die Spaanse griep nie. Daar's altyd genoeg mense om te live en wat aangaan. Dit is altyd sad as mense nie meer daar is nie en as hulle lewens verloor as gevolg van 'n virus soos hierdie. But the reality of the matter is one thing that we do know, and that is that we are going to die one day. I think we all would probably prefer to choose our circumstances, maar dit is nie altyd nie. Maar nee, in die algemeen sê ek dink ons het heel goed gedoen sover met die virus. Dit is vir my verstom. Ek dink die belangrikste ding is ek het die oggend toe ek by die kampus is gesien weer dat ek kyk aan die Centurion gebou toe. Ons altyd in klas gehad het. Reg onder by die hoofingang staan die sekuriteitsman met sy masker, 'n groep van 4 of 5 amper soos 'n kruintjie maak wat by rugby of rugby plaasvind. Spanspraatjie. Een rook, 2 het nie maskers op nie. I don't know. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we are faced with, and that is that people are not compliant. And I think the more time of restrictions that passes, I would say that the less conscious and alert we are. It's become second nature now to put on your mask and just move on and but still, still not happening. People are getting to the point of, you know what, maybe I'll do it. I think it's happened to me in 5 months. So people change your attitude. That's the only way. That's why in New Zealand, only 2 positive cases. And they are in contact with each other again. They can do that because there is no infections. Anyway, let's get off that topic. It frustrates me because I mean.
Meneer dink dit is erg. Reisseer is toe. Dis crazy. Ek was deur die rural area na reg van Aquila se kant af gekom. Van Sondag het dit raai gery met die bike. Niemand het maskers op daai veld op gehad wat sokker speel het. Nie eens. Like dis 'n skool vol kinders. Niemand het maskers op.
Wel ek sê dit is hoekom dit ook een van die brandpunte is. Jy weet so again, like anything, people, if it's pick and pay home delivery, if it's a online course that you're doing, if it's a mask that you have to wear not to contract the virus, education is not is essential, and knowledge, I think we all know, is what makes us educators, and that's why we still continue having these sessions, because I could have just given you the manual and said, listen, there's the PowerPoint, there's the manual. The exams are on that date. Your assignment must be on that date. And thank you very much. Enjoy your year. I'll see you later. Education is the interaction as well. So I'm glad we can have this session. I'm going to summarize this video on chapter 7 on sales and operations is already on your already on Moodle. But quickly get that out of the way. Turn to that session. Thank you very much. Anybody see the screen?
Ja.
Chapter 7, sales and
Yeah.
operations, sales responsibility. Very important. Yeah. It's a when you talk about the salesperson, I didn't search long to find that image on the bottom of the screen of what most people have as a picture in their mind of the salesperson is. In this case, second-hand car salesman, and I think people realize that that's not really entirely true. But again, it's just it takes 1 or 2, 3 bad apples to spoil the whole bunch. And in this case, there's always 1 or 2 salespeople who behave unethically, and as a result of that, the whole industry is affected negatively. But more importantly, to start off this particular session, a lot of people actually indicate that it's a bit more challenging nowadays for a salesperson to fulfill his functions. And what I've realized is that one of the reasons is that the modern society has been blamed for being slightly more antisocial as a result of the use of modern technology. Like the picture in the bottom right corner of 2019 shows us. Everybody in the train, on the way to work, on the way to wherever, is on their phones. They are busy with whatever device, it's a tablet, it's a smartphone, whatever, and they're not talking to each other. And everybody said, but it's a sign of our modern society. And then I took a photograph from 1940. People always also traveling by train to work or wherever. They're not on their tablets, but they're also not talking to each other. They're just reading the newspapers. So nothing has changed really. The mode in which marketers communicate with their potential market or potential buyers is different. The fact is, I'm pretty sure that if there's a company that has existed in 1940 and still does, and they were advertising in 1940 and they still do in 2020, that you will find that same ad in that newspaper that you'll now find in an electronic format on your smartphone. So nothing has changed, people. People haven't changed. And I think from a sales point of view, it's important to realize that, yes, behaviors of customers as a result or more sort of environmental influences have changed, but the consumer at the end of the day still makes decisions in the same way and still behaves in the same way. If it's a good experience, they will repeat that and they will be happy and loyal. If not, the exact opposite will happen. So let's look at what I'm going to go to another slide, which is one that I've downloaded on the anatomy of the modern sales professional. Now, the reason for this particular slide is not to specifically highlight certain characteristics that the modern salesperson has and compare that to what has been the case in the past. The reality, people, is that the important and essential characteristics or key responsibilities of a salesperson has still remained the same as it's always been. And that is that right at the bottom, you need to be knowledgeable. You need to have information and know the product or service that you're selling very, very well. You also have to be a very good listener. Top right corner. Those things are still important to be a successful salesperson. And nowadays, it's not been the case traditionally with salespeople. They were seen as a separate function as marketing. It's still sort of to a certain extent, selling is one of the marketing activities that happens, but you have to be sure that you have your one foot in marketing as well as your one foot in sales, regardless if you are into selling or into marketing specifically. The two go very much hand in hand, and it's more important and ties in with knowledge on the product. If you know what the marketing activities is that your company, excuse me, has in mind and or has planned for the consumers, the campaigns that they're going to run, new products that they're going to launch, you will be better in sales. And that's why you have to keep your ear on the ground. And if you are not going to, or if you don't have time to actually get involved into the marketing aspect of the company, your company in general, make sure that at least you have networked well and have people that can keep you informed as to what the feature in a particular company entails. More importantly for us, and this entire chapter sort of focuses around that particular figure 7.1 in chapter 7 in your manuals. And it deals with the key responsibilities of a salesperson. The key responsibilities start with prospecting. You have to find people to sell the product or service to. Now, at this point, and we're going to be looking at each of these components individually, or we do in this chapter. I'm not going to necessarily go through all of that as it is, because the session has already been pre-recorded and is available on Moodle. I'm just going to be highlighting from this diagram the essential components of each of those specific key responsibilities. Now, if you look at prospecting, this is where everything starts, people, and you have to be very clear here. What's the difference between the following three concepts? A, what is a lead, what is a prospect, and what is a client or customer? Now, a lead is everybody out there that has been told about your business. It could be through exposure, through an ad. It could be a referral that you get from a friend or existing customer who was happy and recommended you or your service or brand or product to somebody else, a friend or a family member. Wherever you find people who might be able to and who might be interested in the products or services that you offer is a lead. Now, a lead becomes a prospect when you qualify that lead by determining, like question 1 in the consumer behavior task that we've just addressed, what qualifies the lead, in other words, almost everybody, what qualifies them to become a prospect? Do they have the need? Do they have a need, most importantly, for the product that you are selling? Secondly, do they have the money to pay for it? Do they really need it, and can they afford it? That's the questions that you need to ask. And then the most important aspects or questions that you have to ask when you are qualifying a lead to become a prospect. When the prospect, through the whole process of selling, is now convinced and persuaded to buy your product because you have highlighted the benefits, given them the advantages that they're going to receive when they buy the product, they become a customer or a client for your business. Make sure that you differentiate between those three roles very importantly. Database and knowledge management. It's very important that you keep your databases up to date, excuse me, with information. There are so many. In the past, people had to do a lot of cold calling. They had to do a lot of door-to-door work and legwork to find customers and prospects. Nowadays, there are companies who sell databases of potential customers to businesses. They are in the business of selling databases with information on potential customers. And I think often it's frowned upon because we know that we're getting calls that we actually we're getting calls from people that we don't know and from companies that we've never done business with, and it's a bit of an annoyance. But that's one way of getting the attention to your brand or to your product, is to use those databases. As long as the databases are updated and you do not receive SMSs like I do that my vehicle is due for its next service, but then I've sold that particular vehicle 3 years ago already. So somebody in that office did not update it correctly. Self-management, very important. You as a salesperson need to or would realize that you very often are not going to keep business hours. Let's take, for instance, estate agent. Estate agent is also in sales. They are selling houses. Now, people, very few customers can buy or can actually view a house that they are interested in buying during normal business hours. So in many cases, when you're in a particular industry, your sales hours are going to be outside of business, normal business hours of 8 to 5, and weekends. And it's different for every industry. And therefore, managing your time specifically is one of the aspects, key responsibilities of a sales of a salesperson. You would definitely handle or get complaints. No product is immune to or service is immune to not receiving any complaints from customers. It doesn't mean that the product doesn't blows up in your face and you lose a finger or whatever, that and only then you complain. Complaints, people, very often is not just once the product have been purchased. Complaints is often objections that they have before they even make the sale. And then objection in that regard or complaining about it is really only requesting more information. But let's assume that you have made the sale and your customer returns and is unhappy and complains about your business. 99% of the complaints would be related to service. The 1% where a product is defective, it's immediately replaced. It's not even worth going into an argument. The company replaces and they give you a new one, whatever. The complaints usually come about the manner in which it's done, the manner in which or lack of service that you've received as a customer, and therefore, why do we qualify handling complaints as a key responsibility for salespeople? Because you are going to be getting complaints, and you know that you cannot take it personally, that you have to listen and find out exactly what the problem is, and then offer a possible solution or solutions to the customer. Furthermore, establishing and forming long-term relationships with your customers is extremely essential, and that is, it starts with the whole prospecting phase already. If you have gradually through the whole process of the selling process or selling cycle that you have gone, have been able to establish a relationship with the customer where they feel they can trust you, because what you said you're going to do, you did do. For instance, let's stay with the estate agent. If the appointment was for 7, you're not going to, you know what, sorry, I'm going to be 10 minutes late, and then after 10 minutes you say, no, sorry, it's actually going to be half an hour. No. Oh, sorry, I mean, the client forgot to leave me keys, and so I can't access the house, or what. People don't want that. They don't want that. They want solutions. They want you to be offering them 5-star service all the time. And part of that, and the intention with that, is to ensure that you form a very strong relationship with that individual, and not just up to the point where they actually make a decision to buy your product or not. Beyond that, and that's where the service component comes in, which is the next one, providing a service. Service, absolutely essential. You're going to be expected to offer good service, and customers do expect it. They expect the product to work, yes, for sure, but it's the manner in which the whole transaction has been concluded, and the manner in which the sincerity that you show as a salesperson in your follow-up with the customer to find out if they are really happy, where can they improve. People, that is worth gold. If you can establish, and it's because you've established in the previous responsibility, relationship, forming relationships and managing those relationships, because of that, the client would not be reluctant to express their happiness as well as their concerns, and they will, because they've seen that there's sincerity in you really looking out for them and really wanting to solve their problems and satisfy their particular needs. The fact that you've actually listened to them will provide you with that information. They will definitely tell you if something is wrong, and they will also compliment you if something is right. Okay, so people, this chapter, chapter 7 on sales responsibilities, and specifically in the presentation that you're going to do, because it's leading up to that presentation where you can close the sale, is broken up into those 6 very important key responsibilities of a salesperson. Prospecting, managing your information and your data, managing your own time, because if you're managing your time, you're also in effect managing the time of your potential customers, handling complaints that they might have, building relationships with them that is long lasting, and therefore and doing that by offering them a perfect service. Those are the 6 elements that's of great importance for your success in sales. Right, at this point, people, I think I don't want to go into any more detail because, as I said, the sessions and the session has been pre-recorded, and I've also included some additional examples in my pre-recordings. So we can go through the rest of the chapter, but there's no point in it. I just want to leave you with one particular quote, which is, or conclude with one particular quote that is also in your slides, and that is it's a quote by Brian Tracy. For those who don't know, Brian Tracy is an American who has been very successful in sales, but more specifically, more than, I think it's probably 2.5 million now, but at the point of the first time I read the article on Brian Tracy, he has trained more than 2 million people, salespeople, over his career in training. So he is an expert in training salespeople. So when he talks, you listen. Because the proof of the pudding is definitely in the eating in this case. And he made a statement once, and he said that if you want to keep your pipeline of sales full by prospecting the whole time, you almost always need to have more people that you want to see or have to see than you have time to see them. Then you know that you are going to be successful. And that is true, because if you work from a database of 1,000 prospects that you want to contact to maybe convert them to become customers, once you've gone through that list of 1,000, what next? You have another list. So you have to, almost like a funnel, continuously bring in more prospects, because if your conversion from lead to prospect to customer is done correctly, you're eventually going to end up, because you're getting better and more experience, that almost where initially maybe 1 out of 3, it's now come down to every single person you contact actually becomes a customer. So you're going to run out of prospects at some point. So it's important, people, that you continuously find new prospects, and sometimes salespeople forget that. They think, okay, right, I've collected, I've done my prospecting, I've got my list of 1,000 people that I have to contact, that I want to contact, and I'm going to start working my contact list. It's fine, but you need to add, as you take one out of here, you need to put another one back to replace it. I mean, a rugby team, if somebody is getting replaced, or somebody's taken off the field, he's being replaced by somebody else. Otherwise, you'll end up, if you take everybody off that gets injured, you end up playing 15 against 10. So there's always a replacement for something that goes missing here. So if your status changes from prospect to customer, then you have to replace this prospect, because that prospect has moved to the new category, which is the customer category, and that one has gone out of the funnel. Therefore, you need to bring another one in continuously. That's the success. Never, never, ever stop prospecting. If you have done those, if you have performed those key responsibilities perfectly, and it will happen over time as you become experienced that you do it better, you will realize one thing. It becomes easier because now, because you've been establishing a long-term relationship with your customers and you've also offered them good service, they start giving you new prospects. You don't have to go find new prospects on the side because your current customers who are satisfied are producing through word of mouth, are referring people to you. That's one and the most effective way, because a referral that comes from a customer that is satisfied is almost already a qualified prospect, because you're not going to recommend a particular brand or product if you've had a bad experience. You want to share your good experiences with the product with your friends. So therefore you are going to, if I ask you, can you give me 5 names of people who might be interested in the same product that you just bought? You're going to think of 5 friends that you want to share and that you want to have the same experience as you. You're not going to give it to people that you don't like. If you had a bad experience with a product, you're going to say, oh yeah, this is the one you need to fund, because I mean, you want them to also have a bad experience. But that's people, the power of good customer service and the long-term relationship that you've established with a customer that result in your prospects funneled in the whole time, and you having to spend time on servicing the customers to keep them happy, because they'll be giving you the new prospects, and you don't have to spend time out of the office and away from the phone where you could contact people, because you need to go find them. Okay. Any questions at this stage, people? It's quite simple. I think we know what we have to do to be effective in sales. If you apply those 6 key responsibilities, you are well on your way to being successful in sales. Annika, fine? Nog all right? Niks vra nie?
Ja meneer, ek is nog reg, dankie.
All right. Somebody is ook fine, sê sy vir my. Het lyk my sy wil nie vir ons wys waar haar aangaan nie. Ek dink sy lees ek al klaar onder Adobe onder op die waterbed. Ek neem jou nie kwaad.
Nee, glad nie.
Ek is verras mense, dis 1 uur in die middag en is nog steeds 12, 13 grade buite. Hierdie is nie typiese Kaapse koue nie. Hierdie is Hoofveld koue.
Dis sneeuwkoue.
Dis sneeuwkoue, jy is heeltemal reg. En ek dink ons gaan 'n bietjie kry. Mense dink ons altyd as daar wolke in die lug is en dit reën dan sneeu dit. Nee, toe nie.
Ja.
So mense, ek hoop vandag was suksesvol vir julle gewees. Al 2 hierdie sessietjies gaan ons gou vinnig convert na videoetjies toe en dan sit ek dit vir julle op Moodle. And then we see each other again tomorrow afternoon at 3.
Hulle sê
Ja,
so
dis
meneer.
reg.
Good. I have another Zoom session. There was a sort of a double booking. So I'm going to do the first 40 minutes of tomorrow's session, and then not complete the full hour for us. Yeah, I need to already do another session almost sort of immediately after that. So it's going to be, I don't have flexibility in my time in that regard, but I'm pretty sure that what we have
Meneer moet net onthou,
to do in the 40.
ons almal is Afrikaans hier.
Yeah, I know. But then somebody somewhere who wants to watch this video in English, because they don't understand Afrikaans, also need to at least understand the second word that I say. So, ja, ek is gemaklik om met julle ook Afrikaans te praat. Unfortunately, the majority of the session needs to be in English. I can actually repeat it in Afrikaans, just for the sake of company policy, and also somebody else who maybe they want to use this video next year for some other reason, and then obviously there might not be 3 Afrikaans people, 4 Afrikaans speaking people in the group. But no, trust everybody's well. Kry vir julle pannekoeke en goeders uit en julle sop en al daai nice goeders wat saam met hierdie koue kom. En dan sien ons mekaar môre middag so 3 uur se kant.
Ons maak so.
Goed. Okay, stay healthy, stay strong.
Dankie meneer.
Kyk na julleself.
Selle.
Thanks julle.
Bye.
Bye.